Hello everyone and welcome back to Rick's Garage. Today's episode will bring you up to speed on everyone's favorite two-wheeled hot mess, QuaranTina.
Say hello to the bad side. My emotion is flatline. Hungry demon, what I'm seeing is snack time. When I rush in the grab, I better run from the path line.
For those of you unfamiliar, QuaranTina is the 1977 XS750 I bought a few months ago. It was in a pretty torn up state when it was dropped off, showing up as a roller and a few containers worth of parts. Episode 24 covered the initial checks and inspections to get an old heap like this running, and since she's turned up in the garage, the fuel system has been rebuilt, along with the brakes, forks, and a few other odds and sods. What I've learned going through this bike is that XS750s aren't really that popular. Not that it's a bad bike from what I can tell so far, and there's a pretty cool group of enthusiasts out there, but it never really got to be the go-to Japanese bike like Honda's CB750 or even Yamaha's XS650. Unfortunately for me, that means aftermarket and reproduction parts aren't really the most plentiful. Now that's where that group of enthusiasts I mentioned come in. First off, there's this dude named Ebenezer. Now, don't let the name fool you, this guy is anything but a Scrooge. He opened up his collection of parts to help me out, shipping me a starter motor and basically the entire bike's charging system. I even scored a full electronic ignition to replace the out-of-date points. He saved me a bunch of time and money, not to mention the aggravation of trying to track all this stuff down separately. Getting parts is great, but especially when you're on a budget, figuring out which parts you need is just as crucial. That's where the next guy comes in. Neil Roy over at Gunmoto is an electrical guru who's rebuilt his own XS750. He's running a custom wiring harness, so his was the perfect brain to pick for all of QuaranTina's electrical woes. Gunmoto also has a YouTube channel where Neil Roy is currently rebuilding a classic GPZ, so be sure to check it out as soon as you're done watching this video. Once the main electrical concerns were sorted, the other big issue that had to be addressed was the kickstarter, or more accurately the malfunctioning kickstarter. Now it may sound silly, but the only reasons I bought this thing is because it was cheap and it had a kicker. There's something retro cool about an old school Kickstarter, and I'll be darned if I can't get this one working properly. After opening the side cover, I found that the engagement gear looks a little worse for wear. I'm not 100% sure how this happened, but this thing is roasted. With all those broken teeth, more than half the pedal throw is grabbing nothing but air. After sourcing a replacement gear from eBay, the kicker will finally mesh the gears where it should and get the engine turning. Because that chewed up mess engages the flywheel, pretty much the entire contents of the side case have to come out just to access it. That means all the kicker gears and the entire clutch assembly. Now that's a lot of work, but it's just as well since QuaranTina's been sitting such a long time, the clutch should probably get double checked for condition anyway. It was sticking a bit on me while the bike was on the stand, and I had a feeling there was more to it than just a cable adjustment. I'm going to be making a separate video on the clutch disassembly and service, but with the new kicker gear installed and all the clutch components verified and back in one piece, it's on to the next step. You know that old saying about opening up a can of worms? Well, beyond the Kickstarter and the clutch, there was actually another problem that required attention under that case cover. The primary chain, which connects the engine's crankshaft to the clutch assembly, was so worn and stretched that it began chewing away on the inside of the case. As I mentioned earlier, aftermarket parts don't really exist for this bike, and I am not dropping $300+ on an NOS chain. So now it was time for some arts and crafts. Using some nylon from a previous project, along with some spare steel, I made a handy dandy tensioner to take all the slop out of the chain and keep all those aluminum shavings out of the oil. Once all the guts were stuffed back into the side casings, the transmission and final drive gear oil were dumped and replaced with some fresh 90 weight. Alright, hope you guys are ready, because it's moment of truth time. Let's see if after all that work, QuaranTina is finally ready to move under her own power.
It actually works.
Aw yeah, even though it was just up the road, that was a great first ride. Yes, it runs like crap and there is still a heap of work to be done, but the bike starts, runs, and stops. I think this project is off to a great start. I hope you've enjoyed this update on Project Quarantina, and if so, drop a like. And if you're as excited as I am for what comes next, be sure to subscribe with notifications so you never miss any new content. I'm Rick the Welder, and as always, thank you all very much for watching.